So hi everyone, welcome today. For today's session, we are going to discuss about Amazon CloudWatch. So Amazon CloudWatch is AWS's monitoring service. So we'll be able to do a lot of features over here. So I'm not going to do a lot of death by PPT today. So we have only 4 to 5 slides that we would like to cover for Amazon CloudWatch, and then we are going to deep dive into a lot of practical stuff that we can do today, right? So it's going to be at least for 30 to 40 minutes of duration. So let's try to clock that time, right? And let's try to gather a lot of information regarding CloudWatch. So when we were working with EC2 service, and when we were looking at some of the metrics of the EC2 service, or it could be a load balancer that you have spawned up in your infrastructure, and you are looking at some of the metrics of your load balancer or your target group metrics, or even in the previous lecture we studied about Amazon ES, right, Elasticsearch, and even over there we were looking at some of the metrics over there regarding the JVM memory and so on. So for your EC2 instance, you had some metrics like CPU utilization, network in, network out, network packets in, network packets out, disk read bytes, disk write bytes, disk read ops, disk write ops. You had statistics also. So all of these were actually presented to you by a service called Amazon CloudWatch, right? So we will look at all of CloudWatch's capability in today's class, right? All of that is part of the Solutions Architect Associate course. So let's get started. So Amazon CloudWatch is a monitoring and observability service built for DevOps engineers, developers, and site reliability engineers and IT managers. Right. So it's a monitoring service at the end of the day. So it provides you with a lot of data and actionable insights that you can do to monitor your applications, respond to system-wide performance changes, optimize some of the resource utilization, and also get a unified view of a operational health dashboard, right? So recently I was faced with this particular use case in an organization wherein I mean, they were over provisioning their instances. Obviously, I can't tell you the organization's name, but they were over provisioning their EC2 instances in the sense that if suppose a particular workload was supposed to have only 2 gigs of RAM or 3 gigs of RAM at the maximum for it to work smoothly and perform normally, they were provisioning really high instance sizes like C4 extra large or C4 2 extra large and so on, which was around 16 GB of RAM or 8 GB of RAM, which was totally not necessary. So then at a later point of time, after a year or two, they found out that their AWS bill was skyrocketing, and they were paying at least around 1 lakh per month for the AWS bill. So therefore, they started looking at the CloudWatch service, and they were looking at the CPU utilization and even a custom metric that we'll be looking at later today regarding the traffic on port 80, or probably the memory utilization of your EC2 instance is a custom metric. You don't get it out of the box, right, through CloudWatch. So they were looking at these metrics, and they found out that the CPU utilization was pretty low, man. It was only 5% or 6% that was happening. So using CloudWatch, they were able to actually find out that, and they were able to reduce their instance to, to lower sizes, so that they would save on a lot of cost, right? So it gives you that kind of an insight. And the CloudWatch monitoring and operational data is being collected in forms of logs, metrics, and events, which we'll be taking a closer look at regarding events, which is very, very important for event-driven architectures that you create in the cloud. And it provides you with a unified view of all of your AWS resources, applications, and services that you run on AWS or you run on your on-premise servers, right? So you get a unified dashboard that you can create with CloudWatch. So since we spoke about Kibana dashboards in the previous class, over here you do something similar. So you create visualizations, and then you create dashboards on CloudWatch, and then it's a unified dashboard across multiple regions also. That's very much possible, and you can share these dashboards and so on. So you can use CloudWatch to detect any kind of anomalous behavior in your environments. And you can also set alarms, which is pretty cool. And you can visualize logs and metrics side by side, and also take automated actions to troubleshoot any issues. And also they have recently, recently I would say, but last year they released something called as Logs Insights, which is a very nice querying mechanisms within CloudWatch itself for querying all of your logs in a particular log group, which we will also see today in the demo. Right? So there are a lot of pretty cool features with this. And one such feature that I would also like to show you today regarding alarms is that you can go ahead and configure your billing alarms with Amazon CloudWatch, wherein you can go ahead and enable your usage statistics for your AWS accounts to be enabled. And then you can go to CloudWatch and create your own alarm, wherein you can specify that if my spend for the entire month is greater than $10 or $20, I can go ahead and send out an SMS notification or probably an email notification to ensure that the respected person is notified regarding this breach in threshold, right? And when we spoke about the auto scaling lab previously, we were also looking at scaling the EC2 instances based on CPU utilization or memory utilization and so on, right? That was pretty cool. Scaling, instances on CPU utilization or like a custom metric based on memory utilization, you are leveraging CloudWatch in the background, because CloudWatch is going to monitor all of your EC2 instances, and then it's going to find out if suppose the CPU utilization is greater than 70%, it's going to go ahead and send out a notification, and it's also going to tell the auto scaling group to go ahead and launch more instances on your behalf, right? So that was pretty cool. So therein also we were using CloudWatch in the background, but we never actually started working with CloudWatch. So today is the day. Yeah. So CloudWatch collects a lot of metrics, logs from AWS services and applications and services that run on AWS and on-premise. It monitors all of these, and then it acts. You can specify your, a troubleshooting mechanism, or if suppose an event occurs, how do you act on those events, right? So if suppose a person uploads an object onto an S3 bucket, how do you react to that? If a person creates an S3 bucket, how do you react to that? So we will see all of these events when it comes to CloudWatch events. And then we can also analyze all of these metrics. So you get 1 second metric analyzation. You also get a 5-minute granularity by default. And then if you enable detail monitoring, you also get this 1 minute granularity. And regarding monitoring metrics and so on, you can get up to 1 second metrics being, for data retention for 15 months that you can store it. And you can also do real-time analysis. And in the previous lab only, we saw that we could send out all of our data from CloudWatch logs group in real time to an Elasticsearch cluster that we created in the previous lab, right? So that was pretty cool. So similar to that, you can also export all of your logs from CloudWatch to S3 to store it for a very long period of time, because when it comes to CloudWatch, there is a retention time for all of your logs. I think it's around 450 days or 500 days. I'm not sure with that count, but you can read it in the FAQ, right? But then there is still a duration for as to how long it's going to store your data. But when it comes to storing your data in S3, S3 is infinite, man. You can store it for however long you want, and you can put lifecycle policies. You can do cross-region replication. So you have all of those features with S3. Right? And finally, you can do application monitoring. You can do system-wide visibility into all of your resources. You can also check on your resource optimization. So like I mentioned in the previous example, an organization was launching big resources when they should have actually launched small resources for those applications, right? And they were actually utilizing very less when it came to the CPU utilization and so on. And you can get unified operational health onto all of your systems that you're monitoring on the AWS cloud and even on on-premise environment. Right? So some of the use cases where people would generally use CloudWatch is to monitor key metrics and logs, and to visualize your application and infrastructure stack, to create alarms. And if suppose the CPU utilization goes greater than 70% or 60%, you can create alarms. If suppose your billing is going greater than $10 a month, you can create your own alarms. You can correlate metrics and also logs to understand what is the root cause for some of the performance issues. So you can monitor all of your container ecosystems across Amazon's Elastic Container Service, which also has a flavor of Fargate, wherein they take care of the infrastructure. It's a serverless offering. You can also do it for EKS, which is your Elastic Kubernetes service. And CloudWatch easily integrates with these guys. Right? And you can monitor your applications that run on AWS or on-premise. So CloudWatch is an internet service. It's not sitting within the VPC. It's a management service that sits in the internet. And it collects all of the data at all of the different layers of your performance stacks, including metrics and logs. So recently, they also brought out a configuration for CloudWatch called as Synthetics, which is very similar to application performance monitoring, which was pretty cool. But that is out of the scope of this exam. But also remember that they have APM within Amazon CloudWatch, right? So the most famous APM tools in the market are Dynatrace. You have Neuralink. You have Nagios, I believe. And then you have the Elastic Stack that we described for APM also, right? But CloudWatch also has its own APM that they released called as CloudWatch Synthetics. So you can take a look at it, right? But we will not cover it in this particular session. So some of the other use cases are to explore, analyze, and visualize your logs to address any kind of operational issues or to improve some applications performance. You can even query for certain keywords within your log files. That is also possible. And CloudWatch alarms are excellent, man. So you can monitor your entire infrastructure, and if it breaches a certain threshold or you want to detect any kind of anomalous behavior and so on, you can leverage CloudWatch alarms for that. And we would have previously used it with when we were working with EC2 auto scaling, where we mentioned that if suppose the CPU utilization across my fleet of instances, the average CPU utilization goes greater than 60% to 70%, go ahead and add one more instance to my group. If it was less than 20%, remove one instance from my group. So these are some of the things that you can do with CloudWatch, right? So let's directly deep dive into the console, and let me just show you some of the things regarding CloudWatch, right? So let me go to the console. So you can see right now we are logged into our AWS account, and we are in the Northern Virginia region. So CloudWatch is a region-based service, right? So we are in the Northern Virginia region, and I think they recently released an Africa region. So just a small note on that. So there is a Cape Town region called as AF South 1, which they have recently released. It's amazing. Right? So they are keeping on adding more regions as they go by, right? And when you land into the CloudWatch dashboard, so you get this overview tab where you get some of your alarms by service that you have created. And you can see that these were some of the alarms that we created when we were working with the auto scaling lab. And you can see that there is no data because there's insufficient data for all of these alarms because, I mean, we have deleted the infrastructure, but we haven't deleted these alarms, right? So I'm going to walk you through each and every one of these properties on the left side so that you get to know more details. And this Synthetics is your APM, which was recently released, right? But we will look at the other aspects. We are not going to cover service lengths and not contributor insights. But other than these two, other than these three for that matter, these are the other things that are very important for the exam point of view. So we will cover those in great detail. So let's go ahead and get started with dashboards first. So let's go ahead and create our own dashboard. So I'm going to put up a dashboard name over here. So let me just give it a name called as EC2 CPU utilization. So I'm calling it as EC2 CPU utilization. I'm going to create this dashboard. So now the next step would be to create visualizations. So I'm going to choose a line chart over here, right? I'm going to go ahead and click on configure. So now you can see we are on the metric side of things, right? And we are going to go ahead and choose the EC2 metric over here. And we are going to go ahead and choose this aggregation to be not by auto scaling group or by image ID or across all instances or across, aggregated based on the instance type. We are going to choose certain instances. So we are going to go with per instance metrics, right? And you can see over here, we have a lot of instances over here. Some of the instances do not have a name specified, but let's see if I have one instance where I have the name specified. So let me just keep scrolling down until I get that instance. Okay, so it's still not showing the name of that instance. So let me just go to instances and let me just check this particular instance's ID over here that we have from our VPC lab, right? So let me filter based on that. So let's put the resource ID over here. Cool. So we do have our instance name over here called as my public subnet web server. This is the instance ID, and you can see over here we have the status checks. We have the CPU related metrics. We have the network packets in, network packets out. We have the CPU utilization, which we are thinking about, right? And then we have the network in, the network out. We have the discrete bytes, the discrete ops, and so on, right? So on the top, you can see we have a timeline over here for every 1 hour. Okay, this is a pretty nice graph. So you can see that the CPU utilization is not more than 3.62%. You can aggregate it for 3 hours and so on, or you can even choose your custom over here, or even your absolute where you choose the date and time, right? It's pretty cool. And you can even change this on the fly from a line graph to a stacked area graph, or you can change it to a number graph. Right? So I'm just going to leave it as the stacked area graph because I like this color. Right? And on this graphed metric over here, you can see that we have the CPU utilization over here based on this instance ID. And we could also go ahead and add more CPU utilizations for other instances just to compare how it works, right? That's very much possible. And you can see the period over here is set to 5 minutes. I'm going to set it to 1 minute over here, right? So this period is going to be set to 1 minute, but it's just that you will not get that 1 minute period over here just because you don't have 1 minute granularity for your enhanced monitoring enabled. So I'm just going to set it back to 5 minutes. You can see we have the y-axis over here. If you want, we can just shift it over to the right side. We can keep it on the left side. All these are possible. And when it comes to the graph options, you can see that we have the widget type over here and even the legend position. So you can change it to hidden, or you can change it to the right, which is the CPU utilization. This is the legend, or you can keep it on the bottom, right over here. Yeah. And you can see the live data coming from the right. I mean, you can modify your left y-axis and your right y-axis. You can add any annotations that you would like, any kind of names that you want, you can add it over here, right? And the source you can see over here, this is your source. This is a query that is being issued to CloudWatch REST API. You can issue this if you have your, AWS CLI configured accordingly, right? To hit this API and get the respective metric for this particular EC2 instance from CloudWatch itself. So it's just giving you an idea. And you can also see the image API over here, right, that is being sent. So let's just go ahead and click on create widget right now. And you can see we have the widget over here. So this is again based on every custom 5 minutes, but then I'm going to change it to 1 hour. So you can see the widget over here. Now you can see we can go ahead and save the dashboard. Right? You can go ahead and add any more widgets that you would like, or you can go ahead and rename the dashboard, make it your favorite, delete your dashboard, or in the settings you can go ahead and set default time range. You can go ahead and enter full screen for this dashboard. Right? This is the full screen for this dashboard. Right? You can go with the light theme and the dark theme. This is pretty cool. Yeah. Awesome. So this is regarding visualizations and dashboards for CloudWatch, right? So let's move on to the next one, which is called as alarms. And let me show you as to how to create a billing alarm. Okay. Let's see if we already have one. So under alarms, we have so many alarms over here, but we don't have any alarms for billing, right? So we have some for DynamoDB that we created in the previous labs and so on. But let's go ahead and create an alarm right now. So you have to first choose the metric. So I'm going to choose the metric, which is my usage metric. So I'm not sure whether it will be under billing or usage, but let me just check. Yeah, so it's called as a usage metric. And by AWS resource, you can see, okay, so do we have, okay, so it's not the usage metric. Let me just go back and see if it's some other metric that we are missing. So is it the billing metric or something? So let me just see. So we have SQS, SSM, states transfer. Okay, so we don't have a billing metric over here. So let us go to the billing dashboard and see if we are able to enable it. So maybe from there we can walk our way through. So let's go to the billing dashboard. So let's see if we are able to create a billing alarm. So from here, so create and manage your budgets. So there's something over here. Okay, let's go to budgets. Okay, so there is one budget over here. But let's see if we are able to create our billing alarm. So billing preferences probably, yeah. So receive billing alerts. Let me enable this so that the AWS usage charges are generated and even that metric is generated, right? So let me click on save and let's go ahead and go back to CloudWatch and see if suppose after some time that metric is displaying. So, but other than that, you can go ahead and create an alarm by yourself for CPU utilization, which we'll do right now. But since we don't have the billing usage metric being sent out to us, we have just enabled it. Oh, awesome. We just got it right now. We have the billing and you can see the total estimated charge over here. And we are going to choose the USD metric over here. And you can see that, where is the USD metric? Okay, so it's taking some time to populate the data. But anyways, choose your metric and click on select metric. And you can see over here, it does not populated the data right now. But we are going to go with this example. So the period is 1 day, right? And for the period of 1 day, you can go ahead and choose if your bill for 1 day is greater than 30 USD, right? And similarly, you can go ahead and set a threshold for greater than equal to, lower than equal to, or lower. We are going to go with greater. This is a threshold that we would like. So we are going to go with, if suppose the estimated charges or my account's billing charges for 1 day of period is greater than 30 USD, which is greater than 30 USD. Then what we are going to do in the, okay, let's see what's there in the additional configuration. Okay, so this is something that I would like you to note, because if suppose there is some data that is not being generated and you're not able to visualize the data in CloudWatch, you can go ahead and treat the data as missing, right? Or you can also treat the data as good, which is not breaching the threshold. So at some points of time, you may not even have data, right? So at those points of time, you can go ahead and configure this according to how you want it. But let's keep it as treat missing data as missing itself, right? Okay, so cool. Let's go to the next screen. Let's go ahead and choose to trigger a notification. And they give you 3 options over here. So they allow you to trigger an SNS topic notification whenever the alarm is in alarm status. or whether it's in the in OK status, or whether it's in the insufficient data stage. But right now, I'll just create an alarm when it's in the in alarm status. That means when it has exceeded 30 USD for the entire for my accounts bill for one day, right? So let's select an SNS topic, or let's create a new SNS topic. So I'm just going to create this topic name called as I'm going to call it as my billing alarm, and I'm going to put my email ID. Sorry. So I'm just going to put my email ID over here, and you can go ahead and click on create topic. So it's going to create the topic. It's also going to create a subscription for the topic with your email address. So this is something that we saw when we worked with S3 and event notification also, right? So now let's go ahead and you can add any other notifications also that you want to. So you may have an admin team that is going to monitor all of this. So you may need to redirect it to your organization's administrator email address and so on, right? So you can also choose to do some kind of auto scaling action, but for the billing alarm, we don't want something like that. And it's only available for EC2's metrics. So this EC2 action. So if suppose your EC2 instance is going more than 70% utilization and so on, you can choose an auto scaling action, or you can go ahead and stop and start your EC2 instance or something like that. So that is regarding EC2 action. But right now we are doing it for our entire accounts billing, right? So let's go ahead and choose next. We have to give the alarm a name. I'm calling it as my billing alarm, and I'm going to go ahead and click on next and review all of my settings. So if it's greater than 30 USD for one day period, I'm just going to go ahead and send out a notification to an SNS topic, which is going to come to my email address. And let's go ahead and click on create alarm. Right. So one more thing that you have to notice whenever you create an SNS topic and you create a subscription for that, always remember that you have to go to your email and confirm to that subscription. Right. So there is an AWS notification that you have come to your mail. Always confirm to the subscription. Don't forget that. If you forget that, then you will not receive any emails from AWS, right? Cool. So we have confirmed to that subscription also. So the best way to create a billing alarm is first to go ahead and enable your preferences over here in your billing preferences to enable receive billing alerts, and then click on save preferences. And then your billing related details will be generated, right? And then you can see over here, right now the actions is none. And it's right now in the insufficient data stage. So after some points of time when it's going to generate the data, right, it will go from the insufficient data stage to the OK status, right? Awesome. So it has come to the OK status right now, which means it's collected the data and it's perfect. It's working fine. So only if it breaches the 30 USD for one day, it is going to go ahead and send out an email to us, right? That's a pretty high threshold, right? Okay, cool. So now let's look at logs, which is the next part of CloudWatch, right? We also spoke about logs a lot before when we were working with the previous lab with VPC flow logs and all that, right? So a lot of different AWS services support CloudWatch logs, right? So we can go ahead and send out all of our container logs from Elastic Container Service directly to CloudWatch using the AWS logs agent, right? Logs driver, sorry, AWS logs driver. Lambda function logs are automatically being generated. So you can see the /AWS/Lambda. As long as Lambda service has permissions to send out logs to CloudWatch, you'll automatically have this created. And if you're working with the code build service, wherein you're just building your code, whether it's a Java application or a Python application, and you're utilizing the code build service, you can look at all of your build log output over here. You can send out all of your EC2 instances logs to CloudWatch logs group, but then there is one catch to that. You will have to configure your CloudWatch logs agent on that EC2 instance. So by default with the Amazon Linux AMI, you get the logs agent that is pre-installed and it's always running. So you can directly go ahead and configure that Amazon CloudWatch logs agent to send all of your log data to CloudWatch, right? So that is one way to do that. And even on your on-premise infrastructure, you can go ahead and install your CloudWatch logs agent onto your virtual machines or your VMware machines. And then you can directly go ahead and send out all of the logs from your CloudWatch logs agent from your on-premise infrastructure to a log group that you create in CloudWatch logs. And you can ensure that these logs are sent on a periodic basis, like every 5 minutes or 10 minutes and something like that, right? So to go into a CloudWatch log group, the maximum that you see when it comes to a CloudWatch logs group is that you see log streams within that. And when it comes to the log streams, it's nothing but the log streams that have been created for VPC flow logs. It's your ENIs, right? And let's say when we look at Lambda's logs, you will see that for every version of your Lambda function, you get a new log stream, and then based on specific periods of time and based on the invocation of the Lambda function also, you get different log streams. So within that log stream is where you have all of your logs inside, right? So for a Lambda function, you can see all of the logs of the Lambda function, like how much memory it consumes, and what is the memory that has been allocated, and what is the memory that has been used, and what is the duration of the Lambda function that was executed, and so on, right? So this is regarding log group. So what are the things that you can do with a log group, right? So the things that you can do with a log group is you can go ahead and stream a particular log group's data to Elasticsearch service. So that's something that we did in the previous lab, and I showed you as to how to do that. So you click on your log group and you click on streaming it to Elasticsearch service. Or else if you're not using the Elasticsearch service, which is internally using a Lambda function anyways, you can still go ahead and send your logs to AWS Lambda. So you can stream it to AWS Lambda. And then there is also one more feature that you can go ahead and stream your logs to Kinesis Firehose, which we will study at a later lecture, but then even that is possible. So you can stream all of your logs to Kinesis Firehose, and then from Kinesis Firehose, you can send it to Elasticsearch Service or Splunk or Redshift or S3 in near real time, right? But then there is one more feature over here is you can go ahead and export your data to S3, right? So let us go ahead and export the data to S3. You can choose a date and time over here, and you can choose the stream prefix over here, right? So if you just leave this as blank, all of your stream prefixes data will be sent to uh, S3, right? So let's choose date and time over here. Let's leave it the same for right now, from 30th to 1st, from 11 UTC to 11 UTC, right? And you can choose the S3 bucket, which is in this particular account or in another account. If suppose your S3 bucket is in another account, something that we saw regarding CloudTrail and uh, I mean, server access logging and so on, we saw that we had to associate a resource policy on that S3 bucket. So you have to associate a bucket policy on the S3 bucket, and if you're going to choose another account, right? Because it has to receive all of the logs from CloudWatch, which is residing in this particular account. But if both your S3 bucket and your CloudWatch logs is in the same account, you don't need to specify a bucket policy and so on. So let's choose this account over here, and then let's click on the bucket name, and let's choose a specific bucket. So let me just go ahead and choose one of my buckets over here. So probably the source bucket NV. Yeah. And you can see on the advanced, you can specify a bucket prefix. So let me just put a prefix over here, calling it as CloudWatch hyphen VPC logs. Right? And then let's go ahead and click on export data. So it's going to go ahead and schedule, but you can see over here, the ACL permission for the selected bucket is not correct. The S3 bucket must reside in the same region as the log data that you want to export, right? So I think it is in the same region, but let me go ahead and choose one more bucket, and let me see if it works with that bucket. So let's choose the website bucket hosting over here. Let's click. If it gives the same error, I'm just going to go ahead and check my S3 buckets ACL, or probably let's go ahead and create a new S3 bucket and come back, right? So let's click on S3 over here, right? Let's go to S3. Let's create a new bucket. Now let's call this bucket. And let's put it in the same region that we are in CloudWatch. So CloudWatch is in the Northern Virginia region. Let's put the S3 bucket also in the same region. And let's disable this for right now, but you can keep it enabled and click on create bucket. Right? So I've called it as my CloudWatch VPC flow logs, right? Cool. So go into this bucket, and the first thing that you can do, since it's specifying that the ACL is not correct, let's go to permissions and let's go to access control list, and let's specify uh, public access to this bucket so that we can have write bucket permissions on this, right? Let's go ahead and click on save, but I'm pretty sure that it needs a bucket policy, but let's just check this out. So let's go back to CloudWatch logs over here. Let's click on export data to S3, right? And let's go ahead and choose that specific bucket over here. So the bucket that we created was called as my, let's go to M. Yeah, my CloudWatch logs, VPC flow logs. Yep. Let's go ahead and click on export. Cool. It's still saying that the ACL permission. So let me just bring that up. So just a second. Okay, so it seems that we will need a bucket policy on that bucket. So let's go ahead and grab the bucket policy. So you can use certain keywords on Google to easily search, right? So let's go ahead and click on the first link from the docs of AWS, right? So let's go down and let's go ahead and take this bucket policy, right? And let's go ahead and paste it on this S3 bucket policy. So let's just go ahead and disable this for right now. So I was pretty sure that we would need a bucket policy instead of the ACL. So let's go to the bucket policy. Let's go ahead and paste this. And you can see over here, we have the, the logs in US East 1, right? US East 1 region, US East -1. And this has to be pasted even over here because this is the get bucket ACL. This is a put object. So CloudWatch will be able to go ahead and now add objects to this bucket, but then we have to go ahead and also paste the ARN of this S3 bucket over here as the resource, right? So go ahead and paste the ARN of the S3 bucket. And even over here, let's go ahead and paste the ARN of the S3 bucket. Put a slash and a star for all objects, right? Let's go ahead and click on save. So now this should actually enable CloudWatch logs group to directly go ahead and send out all of the logs to this S3 bucket, right? So now it's saved. Let's go to CloudWatch and let's try that again. So let's click on export. Cool. So now it has worked. So all that you needed was a bucket policy on the S3 bucket, wherein you mentioned the S3 get bucket ACL and the put object ACL, right? So wherein the logs .useast1.amazonaws.com will be able to go ahead and send out all of your logs from CloudWatch to S3, right? So let's view all of the exports. So there is one export that has completed. So let's go to our S3 bucket and let's look at the overview tab and let's just click on refresh. It's cool. So we got a specific prefix that we mentioned over there. It's perfect. And you can see we have a directory over here wherein we have all of the ENIs, which were all of the log streams, right? We didn't specify or filter based on a particular log stream. So you can see all of the log streams over here and you can go ahead and download this archive file and then open it up and you'll be able to see the logs within that ENI. So this is only a one-time operation that you do. So this is a manual export that you do. So you can write your own script to do this on a periodic basis or something like that, right? So the next aspect regarding logs or CloudWatch logs is you have this pretty cool feature called as insights, and you can choose your log group from here. Let's choose our VPC log group just because we have some data over there, right? So let's choose our VPC log group, right? And let's go ahead and see that on this right side, it has automatically found out all of the different fields. This is pretty cool. It has found out all of the fields. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and take some sample queries for VPC flow logs. And then let's go ahead and check the average min based on a particular destination address, right? So let's run this query and let's see if we get some data. It's pretty cool, man. We got some data over here. So we got the source address, the destination address, the average bytes, the min bytes, and the max bytes that have been transmitted between the source address and the destination address. This is pretty cool. So, and you can also do some visualizations and you can see over here, right? This is the line visualization. You have the stacked area, you have the bar right now, right? But depending on the query, right? So you also have some more sample queries regarding Lambda. You have some sample queries regarding CloudTrail. You have some sample queries. Let's see if we have a CloudTrail log group over here to just show you that. So let's see if we have a CloudTrail. I'm not sure whether we have a CloudTrail log group. Yeah, we actually don't have a CloudTrail log group, but it's just that you can also see, you can get the idea, right? So we can see CloudTrail's basic queries over here, some common queries over here, even Route 53's DNS queries and so on. So this is a pretty cool feature over here. You can also check your logs between those respective durations, right? So let's go back to the VPC and let's filter based on that. So, yep. So you can run this query again and then do it for every 15 minutes or 30 minutes or something like that, right? So depending on which it's automatically going to change. So let's go for 30 minutes and run the query. This is for the last 30 minutes, the data that has come out, right? So this is a pretty cool feature. This is also not going to be asked in the exam, but I just wanted to show you that it's pretty similar to what we did with Kibana, and we were able to recognize all of these fields and so on, right? So this is pretty cool, right? Okay, so the next one, which is very important, is called as metrics, right? So regarding metrics, we have a lot of metrics that we anyway spoke about when we are working with dashboards and alarms and so on, where we had to choose our metric. But one specific thing that I would like to show you over here is regarding custom metrics. So if what happens if suppose you would like to send out a custom metric from any one of your EC2 instances and you want to send it out to CloudWatch, how would you do that? So I already have this setup over here, but I'm just going to walk you through that setup. So you can see that we have a memory usage custom metric that has been sent out over here, and every 5 minutes. So you can also go with auto refresh if I'm, yeah. So we are going with auto refresh every 10 seconds, and you can see this value is keeping on changing over here. But how did we end up sending out a custom metric to CloudWatch, right? So let's go ahead and look at doing that. So first of all, you have to have an EC2 instance from where you want to send out that custom metric. You should have the CloudWatch logs agent that should be installed, and you have to have your EC2, your AWS CLI already configured, and you should have IAM role attached to the EC2 instance, or probably your EC2 credentials. That is your your IAM credentials, like your access key ID and secret access key already specified within that EC2 instance. So let me first SSH into this EC2 instance, which we have over here. So let me copy its public IP, right? This is the EC2 instance that we were working with in the VPC lab. So if you also have an EC2 instance, you can go ahead and follow with this lab. So let me open up my terminal. So I'm in my terminal right now. Let me SSH into that EC2 instance. So SSH EC2-user at public IP -I. My key pair is called as Akshay nv.pem, right? Cool. So right now you can see that we have logged into the EC2 instance, right? And we have our AWS CLI already configured. So if I do AWS configure, so it's showing none over here, but it's just that because I configured this for the super user. So let's do sudo su, and let's do the AWS configure command again, right? So you can see over here, we already have the access key ID. We already have the secret access key. We have already configured all of these things, including the US East one and JSON, right? So the access that this person has right now is administrator access. This access key ID and secret access key has administrator access, right? But I would like you guys to not have administrator access, because that's not the best practice. You should have only access to put all of your metrics to CloudWatch. So the next thing that you have to do, other than configuring your AWS CLI, is to go ahead and do a small script, right, that sends out all of your metrics. So I'm just going to show you one file over here called as a mem/sh file, right, that I already have created. And you can see over here we have a very simple bash script over here, which is starting with the bash interpreter. And then we have the used memory, which is being generated using a simple Linux command called as free, with doing some parsing and so on. And then we have some metrics regarding the TCP connections, the users, the number of users, and the IO weight, and regarding that, right? But then how do you take all of these metrics? So let's just forget that we have these metrics enabled right now. Let's just think that we have only the used memory metric. How do you send out all of these metrics to CloudWatch? You use the AWS CLI, and you use one specific command called as AWS CloudWatch put metric data, and you have to give the metric name, which is called as memory usage. And the dimensions is where you specify which instance ID you're going to send it out for. And then you're going to go ahead and specify the namespace, which is called as custom, and the value, which is the used memory value from here, right? So this is how you send out your, the metrics from your EC2 instance to CloudWatch as a custom metric, because AWS does not support. It does not support memory metric as a custom as a out of the box metric, right? Sorry. So it considers memory usage or memory utilization as a metric, which is a custom metric, but you do get CPU utilization and so on. So once you have enabled this, the next thing that you have to do to send it out on a periodic basis is configure cron tab. So if you do cron tab -L, you can see over here, I already have a cron tab over here, and cron is a Linux concept wherein we send out the metrics for every 1 minute duration, and we are executing the script called as mem.sh bash script. And for every minute, it's going to send out a custom metric to CloudWatch. So you can see over here under metrics, if I go ahead and click on all metrics, and if I click on all metrics over here, you can see a separate namespace called as custom has been created. And you can go ahead and see the instance related metric over here, and you can see the memory usage over here, right? And when you click on this memory usage, it's automatically going to populate it over here. Probably if you want to graph another metric, you can choose to go with the TCP connection on port 80. You can go ahead and choose the number of TCP connections that have been created, right? So all of these metrics have been sent out from the EC2 instance to CloudWatch under the custom namespace. And then we can go ahead and create visualizations and dashboards based on it. So that's how you would do custom metrics, right? So the next thing, the final aspect of CloudWatch, which is called as events, is another pretty interesting concept. So it's pretty interesting. It's amazing. A lot of different architectures have been created based on CloudWatch events. And circling back to one specific concept that we learned regarding auto tagging of EC2 instances that we studied along with the S3 management. And we also studied about auto tagging as one of the concepts. And we also saw a lucid chart diagram regarding that. If you haven't seen that lecture before, just go to the S3's management lecture and listen to the last 15-20 minutes regarding auto tagging, where events were very helpful. So one small thing that I'm going to show you today is, if suppose a person creates an S3 bucket in this account, I would like an event to be triggered to go ahead and send out an email notification to an SNS topic, right? So let's go to events and let's go to rules. So as events suggests, how events work is, if suppose there is an event in your AWS account, you can go ahead and respond to that event by triggering something else, right? So let's create a rule over here. So you can see over here, we have some event pattern and we also have a schedule. So this schedule is a little different than the cron schedule that you saw a little bit before. So this particular schedule has 6 fields. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 over here. So this cron expression is a little bit different than the cron expression that you saw over there previously. But we are not going to do a scheduled event over here, but also remember that you can do a scheduled event. We are going to go with event pattern over here, and we are going to choose specific services. So we are going to choose a service called as S3 over here, right? Let me just type S3. So you can see we have the simple storage service, but you can also see that we have so many other services over here, right? That are supported by CloudWatch events. The pretty most exciting thing is regarding a console sign-in. This is pretty cool, because if suppose an IAM user does a console sign-in into this AWS account, I'll be able to even send out a notification to the administrator specifying that that particular IAM user has signed into this AWS account and so on, right? And you can also monitor certain services like auto scaling. Even EC2 should be a supported service. So yeah, EC2 is a supported service. I'll show you one more regarding the schedule as to what we can do. So let us go and choose S3 for right now, right? The event type right now over here is listed as all events, but we are going to go with bucket level operations, which means it has already filtered all of these. So if suppose you can see over here, if someone deletes a bucket, or if someone creates a bucket, or someone enables a policy on the bucket, or if someone adds tags to the bucket, and so on. So these are all bucket level operations. You can also choose specific operations where you specify only one operation like create bucket, but we are going to go with any operations on the bucket level. So this is the event pattern. So if suppose this event pattern occurs, or this event pattern happens, how would you like to respond to this event pattern, right? So you can choose to go with the target. So these targets are Lambda functions, SNS topic, SQSQ, and so on, and the other things that we haven't totally studied about, right? So, but something that we have studied about is SNS topic. So we are going to go with SNS topic, and you can see the SNS topic over here. So there are so many SNS topics in this region, but my billing alarm was one SNS topic that I created, right? So let me choose my billing alarm over here, wherein my email address was one of the destinations. And for the configure input, you can go with matched event or any part of the matched event, or you can choose any JSON text, or you can transform your respective input, right? But we are going to go with matched event right now. So if this particular event matches, any one of these events for that matter happens, I'm going to trigger an SNS notification to this particular topic, wherein the subscriber is my email address, right? So I'm just going to go back so that the next notification comes over here, right? So let's go ahead and configure details. Let's go ahead and enable this event. I'm going to call it as a bucket creation event. So the description I'm going to give is, so whenever someone creates an S3 bucket, an SNS notification will be triggered. Let's go ahead and create a rule. So you can see this rule is right now in the enable status. You can go ahead and disable the rule, wherein your rule will not be monitoring that event, right? So now let's go ahead and create an S3 bucket, right? So I'm going to go back to S3. Let me go ahead and create an S3 bucket. So I'm just giving it random names, but fingers crossed, I hope this works. So let's put this in the Northern Virginia region itself. Let's go ahead and click on create bucket. So now let's see if our event fires, and if suppose we'll get a mail or not. So let's go to my mail. Let's go ahead and click on refresh. Oh, that's amazing. I got a new mail over here, and you can see over here, probably this is the bucket. So let's just copy this. It's not that, user friendly in terms of readability. So let's go to JSON lint. and let's paste it over here and let's analyze. Right? Let's validate the JSON. This is amazing. So you can see over here the source is aws.s3, the root user. So I'm logged in as the root user. So this is the ARN of the user, which is the root user. This is the account ID. And whether he has come with an MFA enabled, obviously not. He has not come with MFA enabled. And the username is ng batch1, right? And you can see over here, this is my public IP address. How do I map this? Just put my IP on the browser. It's 49.206.125.241. 49.206.125.241. It's amazing. And the user agent you can see over here, that is also being mentioned over here, the user agent. And then you can see the request parameters. What am I doing in the request parameters? I'm creating a bucket called as CloudWatch event test called bucket. And then you can see over here, the buckets endpoint is also mentioned over here, right? And it's an AWS API call, right? So you can see a lot of details regarding what happens when suppose a person creates an S3 bucket. So I would also like to mention one more type of event that we can create over here called as a scheduled event, right? And the scheduled event happens on a fixed rate of every 5 minutes or so, but you can move it to every 1 minute. I think that's supported, right? So every 1 minute, I would like this to happen. So instead of that, you can also specify a cron expression. So you can click on this learn more to find out about how cron expressions are being managed in CloudWatch, because this has 6 fields. So you have the first one, which is the minutes, then you have hours, you have day of month, day of week, and year, right? So you have some examples given below. So this is running every day at 10 a.m., right? UTC. So let's just copy this guy right now. So let's copy this. And let's go back to CloudWatch and let's put this over here under cron expressions. Right? So we need a 0, 10, star, star, question mark, and star. So I think there'll be double spaces, which we'll have to trim. So that's formatting error. Yep, cool. So yeah. So you can see we have this being triggered. The next trigger is going to happen tomorrow, which is May 2nd at 10 a.m. GMT, right? And the target that I can add for this is I can add an instance ID, which would be pretty cool, right? Because when you're working in an organization, you have so many instances that are being launched, but then your organization's working hours itself is going to be like only from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. and so on. And some dev and test machines can also be stopped so that you don't incur a lot of cost. So for that particular use case, you can use a schedule based event. It's pretty cool. So you can go ahead and choose instead of a Lambda function, you can go ahead and choose stop EC2 instances API, and you can put your EC2 instances ID over here. And then for this, it's going to create a new IAM role, because CloudWatch is going ahead and stopping your EC2 instance on your behalf. So wherever some actions are happening on your behalf, you need to have an IAM role for that, right? This is pretty cool, because an organization can save a lot of cost depending on the cron expression that they put. So if their working hours is from 9 to 5, and then after 5 o'clock, some EC2 instances are totally not needed, they can go ahead and stop these EC2 instances using a schedule-based CloudWatch event rule. Let's go ahead and configure the details. I'm just going to call this as stop instances, and I'm going to put in the description. Let's go ahead and click on create rule, right? So one more thing that you can do over here is, since you stop that EC2 instance, when you come back into the office, right, at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day, you would like that EC2 instance to automatically be started, right? So for that, you can create one more rule, right? You can put a scheduled rule over here, and you can go with the cron expression again. And I hope I have it copied. I don't have it copied. So let me just copy it back from here, right? Let's copy this. Let's put it back over here. Probably 12:15 p.m. Why not? 12:15 UTC. Yeah. So let's put this over here. Now let's trim the spaces so that it displays the pattern. Cool. Yeah. So it's going to start my EC2 instance at 12:15 GMT, right? So we are going to add the target, but this time instead of stop, we are going to reboot the EC2 instances, and I'm going to put the same instance ID. So I have this copied. So I'm going to put the same instance ID over here, right? Cool. So let's go ahead and configure the details. I'm just going to call this as okay. This is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and create the rule. So it's going to stop. Probably you would give your own time schedule. So this is some, for example purposes, I have just given 10 and 12:15, but you would give your own organization's working hours policy, right, over here. So in this way you can save up on a lot of cost for your instances that are in the stop state, that you don't need to pay for them, right? And you can see the difference between creating a normal rule over here and creating a rule that has a schedule tied to it. So you can see the difference between a scheduled rule and a normal CloudWatch event rule, right? So one more final concept regarding CloudWatch events is called as event bus. This is pretty cool, man. So if suppose you have this AWS account and then you have another AWS account, and from that AWS account you would like to send out all of the events to this AWS account, to this particular this particular event bus, which is your default event bus, right? For that particular use case you can use event buses. So if you have 2 or 3 AWS accounts, I have set this up, so but it's pretty complex and I don't want to walk you through it today. No, it's not even part of the AWS associate exam. But then when you have multiple AWS accounts and then you have event buses in those respective AWS accounts, and you would like to go ahead and send out all of the events that happen in those respective AWS accounts, and you want to send it to a centralized AWS account that is handling all of the events, this would be a pretty nice use case. Because let's think about tagging services, tagging resources in multiple AWS accounts using a centralized AWS account, right? So let's say, for example, we have AWS account 1, and then we have AWS account 2, and then we have AWS account 3. And then you have resources being spawned up in all of these accounts. So you want to auto tag all of these resources that are being spawned up in all of these accounts, but then you don't want to set up that tagging architecture in individual AWS accounts. What you can possibly do is set up the tagging architecture in one AWS account and then send out all of the events that happen all of the other AWS accounts that you have, which is account 2 and account 3. And then you send out all of those events to account 1's architecture or auto tagging architecture account that you have set up. And then you can tag the resources in cross accounts just from one single account, right? So event bus helps a lot in that. So you send out all of the events from other AWS accounts that you authorize, and they can send out all of the events to this particular AWS account that you have over here, right? It's pretty cool. And one final thing that I would like to mention before wrapping up with this session, which we spoke about before, is the new feature that they brought out regarding Synthetics, which was their APM tool, right? So just a small walkthrough regarding this. This personally, this is the first time that I'm in fact seeing this, but then you can see over here, you can do availability monitoring. So you can monitor the status of all of your endpoints and APIs of your application. You can monitor end-to-end workflows, how much latency is there between one API request to another API request, and so on. And you can also configure your private network. So within your VPC, you can also configure alarms and notifications based on that. So I would like you guys to just go through this once, just look at it once, right? And just probably not work with it, but then just look at it once and see. Probably just click on it, right? So literally all of the configurations regarding CloudWatch has been covered over here, other than service lens and contributor insights and settings. But I mean, this is not part of the associate exam. So I'm just going to keep this lecture short and close off with this right now, right? Thanks a lot for listening to this lecture. I would meet you in the next lecture with some other interesting AWS service, right? So thank you. Thanks a lot for your time and for your patience. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.